In this video, we'll be covering the installation of an SSL certificate on a NetApp SVM to encrypt HTTPS communications between StealthAUDIT and the SVM for both permission and sensitive data scans. To enable ONTAP cluster or SVM authentication as an SSL server, a digital certificate of type server must be installed at the SVM level. This certificate can be self-signed or, preferably, signed by a certificate authority. When a NetApp SVM is created, a self-signed server certificate is automatically created and installed as well. This results in SSL server authentication being enabled for the target cluster or SVM. However, additional self-signed or certificate authority-signed certificates can be installed and used for SSL server auth in place of this default certificate. If you need to obtain a certificate from a certificate authority, the NetApp command line can help with generating a certificate signing request first. The first thing we'll need to do is to make sure that we have our certificate's public and private keys on hand. You'll see that I'll have those here as key.pem and cert.pem on the desktop. You do need to make sure that your private key is always kept secure and never exposed. In this case, I'm using a private key that's only temporary and will be destroyed later, so it's okay that I'll be showing it in this video. The next thing we need to do is we need to SSH into our NetApp's command line. So since we already have our certificate's public and private keys, we can go ahead and start installing the certificate. We're going to go with security, certificate, install, then the name of your vServer. You'll want to change this for your specific environment. Finally, it's important that the type of the certificate is server. So here's where it's going to ask us for the certificate. So the first thing we need to do is we need to paste our public key. So I have that here on the desktop in cert.pem. I can go ahead and copy this. Go back to the command line. Paste it in. Hit enter. Now it's going to ask for the private key, so I'll do the same thing. It may ask if we want to continue entering root or intermediate certificates, and this may be the case for you. However, you will need instructions from your certificate authority for your certificates chain. In my case, with my self-signed certificate, I don't need to enter any more root or intermediate certificates, so I'm going to say N for no, but you may need to enter Y for yes. Again, consult with your certificate authority regarding your certificate chain instructions. So we'll see in the output here that we've confirmed that I have a successful certificate installation on my NetApp SVM. I can go ahead and display that information just to verify. And so we'll see here in this output that I've installed my certificate. The type is server. It has a serial number. Everything is looking good. My expiration date is in 2025. This is determined by your certificate. I created mine with 5 years expiration date, but this does look good. So what we're actually going to need here is the serial number, the common name, and the certificate authority properties from this certificate. We're going to need these for some additional commands that we're going to be running. So just note down that information and then continue. So with this information, we're going to modify the SVM's SSL auth parameter so it uses this installed certificate. So to do so, we can run the following command. Security SSL modify. Enter the name of our vServer. So here's where we need our serial number. I'm going to go ahead and copy that and paste that. I have too many spaces here. that up. So now we need the common name. So this is the certificate's common name. So in my case, we'll see here that it is DPI SVM. So again, I could just copy and paste that, or I can just type it in here. We need our certificate authority. Since I'm using a self-signed certificate, it's also DPI SVM. However, this will differ for your certificate, especially if it comes from a certificate authority, which is recommended. And that's all the information we need. So we can go ahead and hit enter. So what I'm getting here is just a warning that this is a self-signed certificate, and NetApp has asked me to confirm that I do want to continue with the self-signed certificate. If you're using a certificate from a certificate authority that's present in NetApp's root cert store, then you will not get this prompt. So you can certainly yes through this if you know what you're doing and you're sure your self-signed certificate is fine, or you won't get this pop-up if you're using a well-known certificate authority. So now we can go ahead and just confirm that that setting took properly. So we can do security, SSL, show, server, and an instance flag. So what we're looking at here are the SSL security properties of my vServer. And so we will actually see here that the server certificate common name, DPI SVM, we've associated with my serial number here. And my SSL server authentication is enabled as true. So ultimately, this is what we needed to achieve on the NetApp side of things. So from a NetApp perspective, we're actually all set to do server auth for encrypted HTTPS. However, we do need to take a few more steps for Stealth Audit. So I'm on my Stealth Audit server here. And what we're going to do is just open up the Windows File Explorer. We're going to navigate to C, Program Files x86, scroll down and find Stealthbits, go into Stealth Audit, go into the DC folder, and we'll see here a file called cacert.pem. So if we went ahead and opened this up, we'd actually see that this is a bundle of well-known CA root certificates, certificate authority root certificates. Scroll through and see this is quite a long document with many well-known certificate authority root certs in the root store. We don't need to do anything with this unless you already know that your certificate authority is in this document. So go ahead and search through that PEM file to see if your certificate authority is in there. In my case, since I'm using a self-signed certificate, I'm not going to be using this file. So what I'm just going to do is I'm going to copy it, just over a copy of that, and I'm just going to name this something like _ backup _ cacert.pem so that I can get that file back later if needed. We never recommend deleting that file outright. But I'm going to go ahead and edit the current now cacert.pem because this is the file that Stealth Audit loads. So I'll open this up, and I'm actually just going to delete everything in here. And all I want to do is add the public part of my certificate. Again, I'm doing this because I have a self-signed certificate. If you had a CA issued certificate, then it's probably already present in that the root store, the original cacert.pem. So you just want to verify that. Or if your certificate authority is not in there, or you're using a self-signed certificate, you'll follow the workflow that I'm using here, which is to modify cacert.pem with the public key of your certificate that you installed on the NetApp SVM. And actually, I need to quickly save this out to the desktop because I don't have admin rights in Notepad to save to my directory there that we have open in Explorer. I'm going to save this to the desktop quickly. And I will cut this and paste it into our DC folder here. Authenticate that. And so you'll see now the cacert.pem file in our Stealth Audit /DC folder has the public certificate for the the public key for the certificate that we installed on the NetApp. One thing to watch out for is that in the Stealth Audit folder, there's also a cacert.pem file. You don't want to modify this in any way. This is not related to performing permission scans or sensitive data scans using the file system solution within Stealth Audit. Again, we want to make sure we're in the DC folder, which is just one level lower, and this is the CA cert file that we're modifying. And again, always back up the original if you are making any modifications to cacert.pem. At this point, though, I'm all finished with my certificate on both the Stealth Audit side and the NetApp side. So I'm just going to open up Stealth Audit, and there's one more change we need to make before running a permission scan or a sensitive data scan. So under either the FSAA system scan job or the Seek system scan job, or both, if we plan to use HTTPS with both of these jobs, I just need to hit the drop down next to the job, go under Configure, and go to my queries. I want to highlight the only query in the job, click Query Properties, and click Configure. We're going to go ahead on the left sidebar to the Scan Settings tab, and you'll see here there's a drop-down called NetApp Communication Security. By default, this is set to HTTPS, ignore certificate errors. So you can get HTTPS communication, but if there's any certificate errors, by default, those will be ignored. We don't want to actually run the scan if we're getting certificate errors, since we intend to use a certificate. So we'll go ahead with this drop-down and just select HTTPS. This way, any warnings or errors surrounding the certificate authentication and SSL authentication will get alerted to us when the job runs. Go ahead and just next through these remaining menus and hit Finish at the very end here. Click OK. And we could do the same thing for our Seek system scan as well, if we intend to use HTTPS with that scan as well. Typically, you would use that with both FSAA system scans and the Seek system scans. But at this point, this is all set now. We have our certificate installed for server authentication on the NetApp SVM. If you're targeting multiple SVMs, you will want to repeat that process on each SVM. And we've also configured Stealth Audit to make sure that we are encrypting communications over HTTPS and reporting any certificate or SSL errors that are encountered rather than ignoring them, which is the default setting.